Good evening. By the grace of God, we have come to this hour with a roof over our head. And if the weather had its way today, a little wind to remind us we are not in charge of the clouds. Good evening. And let the heart say it again. By grace, not by force, not by cleverness, not by the noise of the world, but by an influence that has never raised its voice and has never failed its own nature. My grace is sufficient for thee. That is our weather tonight. And under that sky, we will be very simple. Our theme is not the storm. Our theme is the sword of the Spirit. We have not gathered to measure thunder. We have not come to count the waves. We are here for the power that answers the noise without wrestling it. We are here for the presence that resolves affairs without advertising itself. The sword of the Spirit, it is written. Not the storm, not the clamor, not the trembling of appearances, but the inner blade that severs the knot without fray or fury. Now, listen and do this with me, quietly, without effort, without performance. Smile, fear has no sword here. Will you let the corners of the mouth rise just so? Will you consent to a soft, present smile? Not a grin for the neighbors, not a mask for the world, just the body's signal that we are turning inward to the one that suffices. This is not theatrics. It is a sign. It is the lamp lit in the window that says to the returning mind within us, this is the house. Enter now, be still, and know that I am God. A smile is a sacrament when it is rooted in this knowing. It says, I withdraw my consent from the storm. It says, I no longer tithe to panic. It says, I am not agreeing that appearances wield a blade. Perfect love casteth out fear. You see, we are not pretending there is no wind. We are simply refusing the superstition that wind is a power. There is only one power. All else is clamor, echo, parade without a sword unless we hand it one. When you smile in this way, you remove the sheath from the true sword and you put every false weapon back into the toy box of belief. Let me say to you plainly, we will not argue this. We will not enter debate. This evening is for demonstration, not contention. If I hadn't witnessed this for 27 years on trains, in sick rooms, through bank doors, across dinner tables, I could not sit here so confidently. But I have seen a quiet smile, grounded in the realization of one power, end a quarrel before the first word was spoken. I have seen it steady, a hand that was trembling. I have seen it open a door that was supposed to be locked. Peace, be still. When that is spoken from within, the sea remembers its master. So our first act is small and whole. We smile, and in that smile, we acknowledge that grace, not grimness, governs this hour. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. We will not wrench an answer from life. We will not pace the aisles of the mind. We will abide and see. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. This is our beginning, simple, living, present. Take this breath with me. Feel how the body loosens when it is not being drafted into the world's war. Feel how thought grows quiet when it is not conscripted to solve what grace has already resolved. The smile is our flag of truce with old habits and our pledge of allegiance to the invisible that does the work. The sword of the Spirit, not the storm. And because we will not argue, we will have the privilege to witness. Tonight we will practice. Tonight we will let the gentle presence do what it does eternally. Calm the waves and cut through the knot without a sound. Now, because we are very honest with ourselves, we will lift our eyes beyond this room and tell the truth about the climate of thought. Fear grips the world. From hospital corridors to trading floors, from kitchen tables to cabinet rooms, from pulpits to picket lines, fear, fear, fear. The headlines are written in it. The forecasts are framed by it. The conversations are flavored with it. Health scares in one column, labor tensions in another, money markets shivering, diplomacy blinking in harsh light, religion shouting to be heard over its own anxieties. Fear grips the world. And yet, hear me, fear bears no blade. Look at health. A symptom whispers and the imagination runs a relay race around the body. Charts rise and fall and we tether our peace to their ink. Look at labor. Contracts become battlegrounds, not because men are wicked, but because fear says there is not enough. Protect yourself. Look at money. Numbers on a screen move and households tremble as if their daily bread were baked in a computer. Look at diplomacy. Nations speak through clenched teeth because fear has written two words on their desks: loss and threat. Look at religion. Even there, fear sells tickets. Fear of hell, fear of the neighbor, fear of the future, until prayer becomes a bargaining table instead of a sanctuary. From end to end, fear, fear, fear. Now let us make a vital correction before we proceed. Fear is not your little private defect. Fear is a universal mesmerism. It is the general hypnosis of the age, suggesting a power apart from God. It is not a power. Its only seeming power is the consent you and I lend it by acknowledgement. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. So if fear is not God-given, what is its authority? None. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Not because we can swing a bigger club, but because there is only one power, and that power is invisible, causative, sufficient. All else is parrot. All else is noise. The storm can shout, yes, but it cannot cut. It bears thunder. It bears no sword. Do not hear me as taking sides in the old human quarrels. This is not attributing virtues to capital or to labor, to this party or that party, to one flag or another. The spirit is not partisan, and therefore I cannot be. I am not weighing whose rhetoric is nicer or whose budget is holier. I am saying something prior to all of that. Power does not reside in conditions. Power does not reside in numbers. Power resides in the invisible presence within. We do not improve appearances by arguing over them. We transform them by withdrawing our belief that they are power. And so we come to the question that haunts every anxious meeting. Is more material force the answer? Is it bigger plans, bigger bombs, bigger budgets, bigger barricades? The answer is no. A louder storm cannot quiet a storm. More noise cannot still the sea. We need the sword of the Spirit, not the storm. We need realized presence, not panic management. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdom is not delivered by the arm of flesh. It dawns where fear is unmasked as suggestion, and where the one power is acknowledged. If I speak with confidence, it is not from theory. If I hadn't witnessed this for years, sick rooms sweetened into peace without a word spoken, negotiations softened when one soul in the room turned within, markets no longer tyrants to a home that remembered manna. I could not stand here and say it so plainly, but I have seen fear dissolve before realized presence. I have watched peace be still arise not as theatrics, but as a felt assurance, and the waves remembered their master. Again and again, the same law operates. The moment consent is withdrawn from fear, grace has room to act, and it does. So when you see the world's trembling, do not lend it your shoulder as if it were a yoke. See it for what it is. Universal suggestion. Clamor without a blade. Smile not to mock, but to signify that your allegiance is no longer with appearances. Whisper within. There is only one power, and by that acknowledgement, the storm spends itself, and the sword that truly cuts is bared in silence. Now let us put our whole weight on the positive and eternal. There is only one power. If you remember only one sentence tonight, let it be that. There is only one power, and it is not out there on the winds. It is not in figures, not in germs, not in governments, not in headlines. All causation belongs to the infinite invisible. What the five senses parade before us are effects, reports, not origins, shadows, not sun. The appearances change because the cause is realized, not because the effects are rearranged by human hands, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. This is not poetry, it is law. Spiritual causation, not material manipulation. Inner realization, not outer compulsion. He hangeth the earth on nothing. What is that but a snapshot of the invisible holding the visible in quiet order? The tree stands because a life you cannot see is busy at its root. The blossom is not the cause of spring. It is the report that spring has come. Our affairs are blossoms. They tell on our consciousness. They do not govern it. Therefore, to work upon effects is to iron the shadow on the wall and wonder why the wrinkle returns. To turn within to the one is to touch the only point of leverage where the world yields. All power is within. Nothing from without can enter to defile. Do you hear the master? Not that which goeth into a man defileth him, but that which cometh out. If nothing from without can enter to defile, then the door of power is not on the street, it is in the temple. Where is that temple? The kingdom of God is within you. This is the pivot of identity. The power is in I, not the little I of biography, not the ego that collects victories and injuries, but the I that is your life, the I that is before history and beneath circumstance. Before Abraham was, I am. When I say the power is in I do not mean mental force, I do not mean willpower, I do not mean suggestion or affirmation contests. I mean the indwelling presence that is the only life there is, shining through your recognition. I and the Father are one. One power. When you believe that power lies in organs or incomes, in ballots or bullets, you stand outside your own house and knock at your own door as a stranger. The invisible is the house. The visible is the furniture. Do not ask the chair to keep the roof from the rain. Do not demand from appearances what only presence is. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. That is a statement of causation. The adding is at the level of effect. The finding is at the level of cause. I am not asking you to ignore appearances. I am asking you to deny them authorship. This is a clean division. Look upon the report and then turn to the reporter. Hear the waves and then remember the sea. Let the body present its telegram. Then retire into the secret place of the Most High and say, Father, what sayest thou? If I hadn't watched bodies and budgets, treaties and tempers fall in line without pressure when one soul in the room remembered, one power, I would hesitate to say it, but I have seen it over and over. The realized presence adjusts the furniture without a clang, so practice the simplest faithfulness. When a condition rises, say within, there is only one power. Withdraw your fingers from the strings of effect. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. You will feel a quietness that is not resignation but reign. It is the sense of the I within assuming its own office. And when that I, which is God's eye, holds the helm, the currents of circumstance cease to be tyrants and take their rightful place as servants. The storm spends its sound. The sword that truly cuts is unsheathed in silence. Having found the point of causation within, let us see how it operates. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things, not in some things, not in the religious hour only. In all things, my grace is sufficient for thee. This is the divine economy. Life does not pay us with the coins of strain. Life pours as gift out of its own nature. The moment we acknowledge one power, we are invited to a new mode of living, from grim effort to grace, from anxiety's wages to the Spirit's increase. It is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. That is the method. The causation is within. The operation is grace. We no longer work for a living. The living flows by grace. We work because it is our nature to express, to serve, to let the invisible music find hands and feet. The carpenter still measures. The nurse still tends. The mother still cooks. The scholar still studies. But the inner premise has shifted. We are not dragging the sun over the horizon with ropes of worry. We are not squeezing bread out of stones by mental fists. Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin, and yet they are arrayed. This is not permission for indolence. It is correction of premise. Toil is fear's sacrament. Work in grace is love in motion. If I had not watched again and again how affairs ripen without strain when grace is acknowledged, I would not speak so plainly. But I have watched it in rooms where budgets once commanded frowns and in homes where health charts dictated moods. A letter arrives that was never begged for. A door that was supposed to be sealed becomes a hinge of favor. A remedy presents itself quietly, not because we force the cure, but because realized presence aligned circumstance and consciousness without our choreography. I have sat with those who laid down the whip of self-punishment and picked up the simple sentence, "Thy grace is my sufficiency," and then saw the thing needed present itself in right order, the right word at the right hour. The reconciliation no argument had produced. The next clear step that no planning meeting could manufacture. Fruit ripens on the branch because the root is drawing from its source. Grace is root work. Do not mistake this for passivity. Grace is not a couch. It is a current. We consent. We cooperate. We become available to a power that worketh through us to its successful conclusion. Paul planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. Plant, water, show up at your post with undivided heart. Use the skills that have been placed in your stewardship, but release the clutch of outcomes. Let the increase be God's business. Let the timing be God's clock. You will find that your movements become simple, clean, and proportionate. No lunging, no pleading. Steps arise out of quiet certainty, and because they are born of grace, they carry their own provision. Relax the clenched will. Let the smile we began with be your sign of release. Say within, Father, thy grace is my sufficiency. I withdraw my consent from fear's economy. Then abide a moment before you act. Listen. You will feel an interior nudge or you will feel to wait. Either way, trust the one power. Take no thought for your life. Your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. To take no thought does not mean to take no step. It means to take no anxious step. Let steps be born of presence, not of panic. You will discover that strength returns to the hands, order returns to the desk, peace returns to the home, because the government of that hour is upon his shoulder. Grace is sufficiency. It is the quiet sword that severs complexity without display. The storm multiplies motion. Grace resolves. The storm demands sacrifice. Grace supplies. When you live in that economy, you will not measure your day by sweat, but by yield. You will not count victories. You will bear fruit. And the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, does not arrive as wages. It appears as presence recognized, consent to be supplied from within, and your outward work will become what it was always meant to be: expression, not extraction; offering, not appeasement; the overflow of a life already complete. Now let us make the antithesis unmistakable. Not the storm, the sword. The storm is spectacle. The sword is substance. The storm is clamor. The sword is the realized word. I do not mean steel. I do not mean argument. I do not mean the noise of willpower or the heat of debate. I mean the word recognized within, the presence felt, the authority acknowledged so deeply that it speaks without raising the voice. The word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. It cuts not flesh, not foe, but confusion. It divides fear from fact, appearance from truth, urgency from guidance. It does this in silence, because reality does not need a trumpet to be real. What is the storm? It is noise. It is appearance. It is the parade of effects clamoring to be mistaken for cause. The storm says, hurry. The storm says, decide now or be destroyed. The storm drags the senses to the window and demands worship. But effects are not cause. The visible is not power. The storm shouts. The storm cannot cut. It bears wind. It bears no blade. The sword of the Spirit is not weather. It is government. Be still and know that I am God. In that stillness, the knot is severed because we refuse to tie it again with our consent. Make this your mantra and weapon. Thou hast no power. Speak it within, not as bravado, but as recognition. Thou hast no power. To fear that rises in the night. To lack, suggesting you must beg bread from tomorrow. To headlines that prophesy calamity. To pains that demand identity. Thou hast no power. Get thee behind me, Satan. Is not theater. It is the heart declining to ascribe causation to effects. When the heart declines, the spell is broken. The storm spends itself without purchase. Let me show you how the sword moves in ordinary scenes, because that is where you must wield it. A woman stands at a clinic counter. The schedule has collapsed. The waiting room hums with dread. She softens the jaw, smiles inwardly, and says within, "There is only one power. Thou hast no power." Agitation. She does not argue with the clerk, does not lecture the room. A place opens quietly at the right time, and her errand becomes simple. A man sits before a board, numbers in red, voices rising. He looks at the paper, looks within, and lets a sentence fill the inner room. Thy grace is sufficient. Thou hast no power. Pressure. He speaks one clear line he did not plan. It is enough. A neighbor hears a rumor that would turn the street into factions. She withdraws the tongue from the storm and lets the heart say, "Spirit governs here. Thou hast no power, division. The rumor finds no echo, and without echo it dies." Understand me well. This is not contempt for tools or professions. We do not despise medicine or markets, counsel or craft. Use your tools. Honor your training. Show up for your post, but do not enthrone them as power. They are instruments, not causes. Servants, not sovereigns. We need the sword of the Spirit, not the storm. We need realized presence to govern the use of means so that they serve grace rather than fear. If I had not watched surgeons guided to right timing by quiet prayer and counsel softened into mercy by one soul's inner surrender, I would be cautious to say this. But I have watched it, and the pattern holds. Where the sword is bared, the tools find their rightful place, and outcomes come clean. Picture the master in the boat. The squall rises, water leaps the gunwales, the disciples wrestle with wind and oar. He sleeps. That sleep is not indifference, it is dominion. Consciousness at rest is the cutting edge. When they shake him, he rises and says, "Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith?" And to the wind and sea, "Peace, be still." That is the method. Rest first, then word. Not storm management, spirit realized. The tempest is addressed at its root, the belief in a power apart from God. When that belief is withdrawn, the weather remembers its governor. So when your hour rises and the storm presents its credentials, stop, smile softly, withdraw your consent. Let the inner sentence take its throne. There is only one power. Thou hast no power. Appearance. Do not hurry. Do not wrestle. Listen. A word will come, felt more than formed, and when it does, that word is sword. Take the step it indicates, or take no step at all. In either case, the knot is already cut. The storm has no sword. The gentle presence does the cutting. The sea will show it by becoming simple again. Let us be very plain now, very simple, because the Spirit's ways are simple. We have spoken of the sword. We have named the storm. Take into your own hands the smallest sacrament I know. The smile, not denial, not bravado, not the grin that says, "Nothing's wrong," nor the mask that hides a trembling heart. This smile is a gentle, bodily yes to the one power, and at the same breath, a quiet no to fear's suggestion. It is the body consenting to truth. It is the outward seal of an inward realization. Be still and know that I am God. The smile is the body keeping that stillness company. Now do it with me. Sit as you are. Soften the jaw. Let the tongue rest in the quiet of the mouth. Let the shoulders drop back into their sockets as if they remembered home. Slow the breath, no heroics. Just let the exhale finish what it starts and the inhale arrive unhurried. Now, only now, lift the corners of the mouth slightly, as if you were confirming a secret you trust, not for anyone else. For the one within who hears your consent. Attend then to the felt hush behind the breath, the little vestibule where thought pauses and the presence is. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. You are not making peace. You are letting it. Bring to mind, if you will, a present trouble, not to feed it, but to free it. Hold it here as you would hold a knot you intend to cut, with the jaw soft, with breath unhurried, with that small, true smile. Say within, not out loud, within thou hast no power. You have no sword here. There is only one power. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Then do nothing but stay. Stay one breath. Stay two. You will notice that the picture of the problem wavers, not because you forced it, but because you withdrew your vote. Fear cannot sit in a chair you have quietly removed. Understand what is happening. The smile is not magic. It is fidelity. It is the body's amen to the heart's prayer. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, not a giddy heart, but a heart remembering its source. The smile says, I am not treating appearances as cause. I am turning to cause itself. The storm demands that you tense, that you clench, that you hurry. The smile refuses conscription. It is the unsheathing of the sword of the Spirit without a sound. Perfect love casteth out fear. Love is not a sensation you pump. Love is the nature of the one within you, recognized. The smile is recognition in muscle and skin. From then on, it isn't difficult. Like any holy habit, repetition makes a doorway where once there was only wall. Practice in little moments. When the email pings and the chest tightens, soften, breathe, smile, and say within, thou hast no power. When a symptom rises and memory runs to past chapters, soften, breathe, smile, and say, you have no sword here. When the conversation begins to heat, soften, breathe, smile, and yield the floor within, too. There is only one power. These are seconds, not hours, and yet they become the hour's government. Consistency turns the gesture into a gateway. The gateway becomes atmosphere. Atmosphere shapes outcomes. And if you say, I cannot even find a smile, then begin smaller. Soften the jaw. The mouth will follow. Slow the breath. The rest will remember. Intend the smile within and let the corners arrive when they can. The intention is already your no to fear and your yes to God. The joy of the Lord is your strength. Not the joy you manufacture, the Lord's own joy recognized as present. This is why the smile carries weight. It is not your courage on display. It is God's government acknowledged. So carry this practice into the next room, the next call, the next decision. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Smile not to charm a result, but to state your allegiance. You will find the knot loosening before you tug. You will hear a word before you argue. You will see the next step before you pace. The storm will spend itself at the edge of this quiet. The sword of the Spirit will already have done its work. Now we take the next step, not outward but inward. Make a conscious transition from dependence on what you can see, count, diagnose, or vote on, to reliance on the presence you cannot picture but can feel. Choose the invisible first. Let every outward step be the echo of inner reliance. We walk by faith, not by sight. Faith is not gambling on outcomes. It is consenting to the one who already governs. He hangeth the earth on nothing. If the globe itself rests on no visible pillar, what makes you think your hour must be propped by visible assurances before you can be at peace? Life is upheld from within. This is not a dismissal of the visible. The visible is report. It is effect. It is the blossom telling on the root. We are not asked to close our eyes to reports. We are asked to deny them the throne. Turn to cause. Let effects take their proper seat. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. Your understanding is the calculus of appearances. Acknowledge him first, and he shall direct thy paths. Paths are outward. Direction is inward. Choose the invisible first. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. I do not mean human love, fondness, favoritism, or the fragile treaties we call harmony. I do not mean positive thinking, the mental varnish we brush over fear to make it shine. I do not mean trust in each other, necessary politeness that buckles when storms rise. I mean trust in the one that indwells all, Christ in you, the hope of glory, the life that is your life. Before you pick up a name, before you count a coin, before you feel a pulse, one power, infinite, invisible, present as your very being. How was this transition made? In moments, not marathons. When the news rolls like thunder across your desk, when a bill arrives with its little sermon of lack, when a symptom taps on the wall of attention, stop. Do not lunge. Smile softly. Breathe once. Turn within. Say, there is only one power. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Thou hast no power, appearance. Then tarry a breath longer than you want. Let the hush gather its strength. From that quiet, take your outward step. Make the call. From peace, not panic. Read the report without handing it a scepter. If an action is indicated, it will be clean. If waiting is indicated, it will be confident. Either way, the government has changed hands. If I had not watched this method carry men and women through rooms that once were tyrannies, ledgers, operating rooms, immigration halls, I could not urge it so emphatically, but I have witnessed the same law repeating. When the invisible is chosen first, the visible conforms without coercion. Decisions that once required verbal wrestling are made in a line or two. Doors that once demanded battering open swing on their hinges at a touch. And if the door is truly not yours, the refusal comes with such light that you do not bruise your hands beating at it. Train yourself gently. At the start of your day, before the phone stirs, before the markets hum, take 2 minutes in the secret place. Sit, soften, smile, and say, Father, I choose the invisible first. Govern this day from within. Let every step be an afterglow of thy presence. Then, hour by hour, return to this rule. Do not make a show of it. Do not announce it. Practice it silently. Thread it through errands and emails, through invoices and interviews. Set your affection on things above, not on things on the earth. Above does not mean far away. It means prior, first. Cause. Let the world's weather be what it will. Anchor in the calm that commands. Peace, be still, and let your actions proceed as its simplicity. This is the transition from clutching the furniture to resting in the house, From measuring the blossom to trusting the root, from storm management to the sword of the Spirit, choose the invisible first. Let every outward step follow inner reliance. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and watch how the ways themselves grow straight. Across scales the rule is one. The arena changes. The presence does not. Withdraw your consent from fear. Smile softly within, and let the one power take its own place. Begin where life so often trembles at the sickbed. Enter quietly. Don't bring your face full of weather into that room. Let the shoulders remember home. Let the breath finish its work. Smile, not to perform cheer, but to acknowledge the infinite invisible present before you arrived. He sent his word and healed them. And when it is yours to touch, touch as the master touched the leper, without bargaining with fear, without the little cringe that asks the flesh for news of God. I will. Be thou clean. That was not a contest with disease. It was consent to one power. Stand or sit by the bed and say within, thou hast no power. Appearance. Christ is the life here. You will find your hands steadier, your words simpler, your listening deeper. If a step is required, phone call, medicine administered, a window open, take it as love's instrument. Wash clean of panic, the sign follows. Breath eases, rest returns, decisions clarify, and sometimes what stood in the way dissolves, as frost before sun, not magic signs following realization. Now lift the lens to the boardroom, the bargaining table where capital and labor square their shoulders and count grievances. Refuse sidesmanship. This is not a work of attributing virtues to capital or to labor. Both are effects. Both are furniture. One power governs all interests because there is only one life to be expressed on both sides of the table. Enter that room, whether you hold a vote, a pen, or only a prayer, and smile within. Say, Spirit is the equity here. Thou hast no power, fear of loss. Hold that sentence as a blade sheathed in peace. Don't argue metaphysics. Don't parade spirituality. Listen. You will hear the word that belongs to that hour, one fair line, one honest figure, one unexpected concession that keeps dignity on both faces. A soft answer turneth away wrath. When wrath finds no echo, it falls to the floor. Agreements formed in that atmosphere bear fruit. They are not patched to burst again. And when the map flames at its edges, borderlines, headlines, contagion trumpeted as a roaming sovereign, do not lend your panic to the printing press. Smile and remember, the presence that governs you governs all. There shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. Not because we clench our eyes, but because we decline to make fear a law. Refuse to let contagion conscript imagination. Stand still within and say, one power fills this field. Thou hast no power. Alarm. Then, if prudent measures are indicated, take them in quiet order. If forms must be signed, if checkpoints must be passed, if precautions belong to your stewardship, let them be the hands of love, not the fists of terror. Practical wisdom is not the storm. Practical wisdom is a servant of the sword. Clean action follows clean consciousness. I have seen the same pattern in huts and on high floors, where the inner government changes hands. The weather of affairs remembers its season. A child sleeps who had been restless. A contract finds its honest price. A border queue moves without incident, though the rumor mill had promised otherwise. Harmony follows consciousness. These are the signs following, not the prizes of mental will, but the fruit of realized presence. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. One power answers in every arena when fear's claim is silently revoked. For the government shall be upon his shoulder. And when it is, the storms discover they have no sword. The sword of the Spirit has already cut through. Let me meet the natural questions while the air is still quiet. Isn't this denial? No, this is placement. We are not denying appearances. We are denying them authority. We are not closing our eyes to reports. We are refusing to enthrone them as cause. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment places power where power belongs in the invisible presence, the one cause. Effects come and go. They tell on the root. They do not create the root. There is only one power. When you withdraw your consent from fear's claim to causation, you are not pretending storms or blue skies. You are standing where the Master stood when he said, "Peace, be still." And the effect obeyed the cause. Is smiling superficial? Only if it is costume. The smile without the inner turn is a mask. It will crack at the first gust. But the smile we practice is not theater. It is seal. It is the body consenting to truth, the face bearing witness to an interior government. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Let not make, when peace is permitted to rule within, the corners of the mouth lift as a sacrament of that rule. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, not giddiness, not denial, health issuing from right relationship. If the smile is empty, skip the curve and make the turn within. Soften, breathe, say, there is only one power. The face will catch up. Without the inner consent, the gesture is posture. With the inner consent, it is prayer in the muscles. What about real danger? We are not naive. We are not reckless. We are not asking you to stand in the road and call trucks illusions. We are asking you to meet every road from the center. Realize presence first, then act wisely. Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Prepare the horse for the day of battle, if that is your charge. But safety is of the Lord. Call the doctor and call from peace. Lock the door and lock it without hate. Exit the burning house and do so without giving fear the steering wheel. Fear is never a strategy. It clouds the eye and shakes the hand. Tools and protocols are servants. They are not sovereigns. Not the storm, the sword. Let realized spirit cut through confusion. Then use the means indicated, washed of panic, guided by grace. And if you say, I am not sure, I am willing to put it on an if basis if you will practice, you will see for yourself. Don't argue this. Don't advertise it. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Practice it silently within yourself and let the results speak. Try it in little hours for a little while. Withdraw consent from fear. Choose the invisible first. Seal your consent with that gentle smile. You will discover, if I had not watched it, I would not dare to promise that appearances begin to yield authority back to the one who always held it. That is not denial. That is government restored. Let us make this practical, not in theory, but in rhythm. Abide, then do. Abide in the word before you touch your work. Anchor consciousness before the day begins, so the day takes its orders from within. Abide in me, and I in you. Take a small portion of the morning, 5 minutes if that is all you have. 15, if grace grants it, and enter the secret place. Sit, soften the jaw. Let the breath remember its source. Smile slightly, not to perform, but to consent. Read a line or two that bears the stamp of spirit. My grace is sufficient for thee. Or be still and know that I am God. Or in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Do not multiply words. Let a single sentence stand like a tree you lean upon. Then be quiet. Let the hush do the work. This is not the hour to ask supply to appear. It is the hour to acknowledge the one who is supply. Keep a small book or a verse within reach. Study is the plow, prayer is the rain, silence is the seedbed. You are not harvesting in the morning, you are cultivating soil. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Dwell, do not dabble. If I had not watched over years how this steady abiding makes an atmosphere in a home, in an office, I would not stress it so. But I have seen the intervals between storms widen. I have seen their force diminish. The same wind that once toppled now brushes the leaves and passes on because the root has gone down. Through the day, let interruptions become invitations. Each disturbance is a bell. Do not resent the bell. Answer it with your method. Pause, soften, breathe once, smile within, and say, there is only one power. Thou hast no power appearance. Acknowledge grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency. Then proceed. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Paths are steps. Direction is spirit. Do not run ahead of direction. One breath is often enough to return the helm to the rightful hand. Practice silent service. Lift fear without words for those you meet. No badge, no lecture. Let your consciousness do the teaching. When you enter a room, let the heart say, Christ reigns here. Thou hast no power, fear. When the clerk is harried, when a child is restless, when a colleague is armored, smile inwardly and withdraw your consent from their fear as well as your own. Pray without ceasing does not mean strain without ceasing. It means keep the channel open. One with God proves to be a majority, not because we overpower, but because realized presence outvets suggestion. Make a litany for the day and keep it simple. Smile at it. Withdraw consent. Acknowledge grace. Act from peace. Smile when the message pings. Withdraw consent when the headline swells. Acknowledge grace when the figure does not add. Act from peace when the decision is laid at your desk. Repeat this until repetition becomes recognition and recognition becomes atmosphere. You will discover that conversations change tone before words are chosen. You will notice meetings landing on the one necessary sentence instead of a tangle. Children will quiet without being hushed. The current you cultivate becomes the climate others breathe. Consistency is the secret. Consistency turns realization into atmosphere. Atmosphere shapes outcomes. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. Keep is an old word for wall, for hedge. Let peace be the hedge about your thought and the temperature of your presence. If I had not witnessed lives slowly turning from crisis management to quiet fruitfulness by this one rule of abiding and doing, I could not ask you to adopt it minute by minute, but I have, and it stands. So, abide and do. Abide first, word, prayer, silence, then do from that center. Let interruptions call you home. Serve silently by lifting fear's claim in every face you meet. Cultivate the soil without hurry, and let grace ripen the fruit, not the storm, the sword. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Smile at it. Withdraw consent. Acknowledge grace. Act from peace. And the day will remember who governs it. Now let us widen the circle without breaking the silence. What you realize is not private property. It is atmosphere. It is field. As part of my consciousness, your fear is lifted. As part of your consciousness, mine is eased. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. This is not co-suffering in panic. This is co-abiding in presence. One with God proves to be a majority within a home, within a team, within a congregation, because realized presence outvets suggestion for more than one at a time. So here is our relational cue. When another is anxious, do not correct them. Do not add your argument to their argument. The storm will invite you to take sides. Refuse the invitation. Smile inwardly. Withdraw consent from fear on their behalf. Say within, quietly and without drama, there is only one power. Thou hast no power. Anxiety. Let your face be kind and your voice unhurried. Let your heart do the heavy lifting. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Gathered does not always mean in one room. It means of one reliance. Let that be your gathering. Create quiet agreements where you live and work. Make a simple pact, a household pact, a project pact, a choir pact. We will not argue fear here. We will not hold symposiums on calamity. We will not rehearse worst cases as if they were law. We will keep a single rule. When fear presents itself, we pause, we soften, we smile within, we turn to the one power. Then we speak or act as indicated, but never from panic. Post this pact nowhere and write it on every heart. It is not censorship, it is government. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Let not force peace to hold the gavel in the room. Begin a 7-day experiment and keep it simple. Morning and evening, as families, as teams, as a congregation scattered across the city, agree to meet the invisible at the same hour. 1 minute is enough if it is real. Choose one common concern, the sick among you, a decision at hand, a neighborhood intention. Do not pray it up and down a list. Do not negotiate outcomes. Smile softly, acknowledge presence, and say within together, there is only one power. Thy grace is our sufficiency. Thou hast no power. Fear. Hold it in realized presence, and then be still. Be still, and know that I am God. If a word rises, it will be a word to rest on or a step to take. If no word rises, rest is the word. Hold to this rhythm for 7 days. No reports midstream, no weather bulletins, just the practice. Let the sword do its quiet work. If, during the day, the concern reappears in headlines or conversations, remember your pact. Do not argue fear. Do not amplify storm. Smile inwardly. Withdraw consent. Return to one power. And carry on with your duty washed of panic, clean action from clean consciousness. You will find that even your practical coordination improves because the lines no longer tangle with tension. At the week's end, gather around a table, on a call, or in a small circle after service, and bear witness, not statistics, not boasts, witness. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Speak of peace restored where there had been agitation. Speak of guidance arising where there had been confusion. Speak of provisions arriving without strain, of reconciliations that found a sentence instead of a siege. And if there are places where the weather still scuds low across the fields, notice whether the wind has changed tone, whether the burden is lighter to carry, whether the next step is clearer. These are signs following. Do not compete for the grandest testimony. Mark the quiet shifts, because in grace small hinges swing large doors. Understand that a communal field is not a marketplace of opinions. It is a shared reliance. This is not taking sides for or against any person, party, or profession. This is placing power where power belongs and letting instruments serve the one. The government shall be upon his shoulder. When a few hold to that government together gently, consistently, without advertisement, a house steadies, an office cools, an elder breathes more evenly, a child laughs sooner, a negotiation loses its teeth and keeps its dignity. If I hadn't witnessed this again and again in living rooms and workrooms, in choirs and committees, I could not ask you so simply for 7 days. But I have, and the pattern holds. So begin tonight. Send no chain letter. Make no trumpet sound. Agree with 2 or 3 or 10, and keep the time. Keep the smile. Keep the pact. Lift fear for each other as naturally as breathing, and do it without words. You will feel the yoke lighten because it is shared, and more because the yoke is on another shoulder. Our realization is not private. It becomes shelter for many, not the storm, the sword, not the noise, the word. And under that word, a people find their weather simple again. Beloved, let it be settled in us now, not the storm, the sword. In every trouble, let this be our reflex. In every gust of report, in every shadow on the wall, let the hand go first to the hilt of the Spirit, not to the old armor of fear. Take the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Quietly, without flourish, draw it. This is not noise. This is knowing. There is only one power. When that is realized, the wind spends itself on empty air. So I bless you with a simple sufficiency. The presence of the gentle Christ is sufficient to calm the storms of life. Not at a distance, not as a promise filed for later, but now nearer than breath, nearer than thought, the government upon his shoulder. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. We are not dismissing the sea. We are remembering the one who walks upon it. As the next concern arises, and it will, because the world still speaks its weather pause, do not rush to prove anything. Smile softly. Let the body keep faith with the heart. Declare, almost too gently for the ear, there is only one power. Stay one breath longer than your habit. In that breath, the sword is drawn, the claim of fear is withdrawn, and the step for that hour will show. If a word is needed, it will be clean. If a silence is stronger, it will be full. Grace will meet you at the next step. I have watched it too long to speak otherwise. From then on, it isn't difficult. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Let that shining be mirrored in your own countenance. Go forth smiling, not as costume, but as covenant. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. And when you meet the storm, do not meet it. Meet God. not the storm, the sword, not the noise, the word. Smile, fear has no sword here. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit. Amen.